Hey, welcome to episode 32 of Credit 101. In this episode, we're going to talk about reviewing your credit reports for errors, incomplete data, and also prohibited information. So, some information should not be on your credit report. So, let's go ahead and review this information. If you guys have any questions, definitely let me know. If so much information that shouldn't be on there, I made sure that I had notes right here just to make sure that I don't miss anything. So, make sure you guys take notes on this because if you hear something like, oh, that's on mine, check that off or write this down, okay? Because you need to know, okay, this is what I need to get removed. So when it comes down to personal information, you have to make sure that any incorrect names that's on there, sometimes if you get your credit report from Experian, you'll see additional social security numbers, date of birth, phone numbers. All this information should not be on your credit reports. It needs to be removed. Also, you may see addresses. Remove those addresses from your credit reports. You can call the credit bureaus and tell them to remove it. You can send a dispute letter in if you want to tell them to remove it, but it needs to be removed from your credit reports. And also incorrect or missing information or your employment. Sometimes you see in your employers on there. If you want to remove that, you can have it removed if it's outdated. Okay. So make sure you get this information removed. Also, incorrect marital status. If you have a marital status on there since you're married or whatnot, or your current spouse on there and you're not married anymore, that information needs to be removed from your credit reports. And I tell people a lot of times when you're repairing your credit, you want to get this personal information removed right away because those additional addresses, social security numbers, and all those different date of births are probably the reason why you still have those negative accounts on your credit reports because they're going to be attached to those accounts. And you're going to see that a lot with Experian because Experian is going to have like identifiers on these different accounts. Sometimes you call them and tell them to remove an address. They're going to say, no, we can't remove it because it's attached to an account. It's like, what do you mean it's attached to an account? It should be attached to me, but it's not necessarily attached to you as account attached to those accounts. So you need to get them removed. Now, when it comes down to the public records, any bankruptcy that was filed by your spouse and not including you, they should not be in your on your credit reports. Also, any lawsuits that you are not involved in, that's on your credit reports. Any criminal records that are more than 7 years, they should not be on there. Paid judgments. We talked about judgments, tax liens, and all those different things. They shouldn't be on there. Also, so make sure you check these different things and any. Don't forget bankruptcies. If it's outside the time frame, Chapter 7 can stay on there for 10 years. Chapter 13 is going to stay on there for 7 years. If it's outside those time frames, it needs to get removed because it's outdated information. So keep that in mind. Now, when it comes down to your credit accounts, if you guys have a spouse, if you're not an authorized user on their credit card or whatever accounts are listed, that should not be on your credit reports, okay? That is their account and is not yours. So make sure that's not on there. Any premarital debt that is your current spouse that's not yours, then you have to make sure that that is removed. Any inaccurate accounts. You say if you look on there, you see a negative account that's not yours, like a collection, that needs to be removed. It's prohibited from being on there. Any identity theft, basically, it had to be removed. So make sure you guys have that stuff removed. And make sure that all of your debts, if it's charged off, if it's completely charged off or if it's sold, make sure it's a zero balance and it's not saying that you still owe it. If you voluntarily surrender your car, make sure that it says that it was voluntarily surrendered and not just a repossession. So make sure that that's on there. If you close an account, sometimes you'll see that say the creditor closed the account. That's not true. Make sure it says that you closed the account because sometimes companies see this, that they'll see that they close an account on you. Or the creditor closed the account. Why would they close that account? It looks bad. So make sure that it reports correctly on there. Any adverse information that's so old, over 7 years, they need to come off of there. Especially, like I said, if it's bad information, they need to get that off your credit reports. If accounts have the incomplete or inaccurate payment history, guys, that needs to be removed off there. If they're re-aging your collections, those accounts need to be removed. Now, when it comes down to your inquiries, if you did not authorize inquiry, it needs to be removed from your credit reports. Inquiries can lower your credit score, so you want to make sure that you remove these inquiries from your credit reports right away. If the inquiry is over 2 years, work on getting it removed, you can call the credit bureaus for any inquiries in your credit reports and ask them to get it removed. And usually they'll remove it over the phone. Okay, so make sure you just get these inquiries removed, because a lot of times, like I said, if you have these different accounts, it's holding it against, it's being held against you, and you just don't want to have these accounts on there, especially if it's not supposed to be on there. So make sure you guys do that. A lot of times, if you guys like go to a car dealership, you'll see that you have so many inquiries. If you did not authorize them to do those 30 inquiries that they did, you need to call the credit bureaus and let them know that you did not authorize them to do these inquiries, and they need to remove them right away. And sometimes they'll say, well, you only doing one inquiry in a certain they'll say, we're going to do only one inquiry and they do 30. Or they'll say, hey, you're shopping for a car, it's not going to hurt you that much. If you guys apply for certain credit cards, or if you're trying to get business funding, they don't want to see all those inquiries. So that is being held against you, whether you know it or not. So make sure you guys call the credit bureaus, author credit bureaus, and tell them to remove it from your credit reports, because it is being held against you. Now, we still have some COVID things that was prohibited from being reported. So that's what we're going to talk about in episode 33. If you pass COVID, you guys, none of this stuff still apply, then you could definitely skip and go forward to episode 34, where we're going to talk about disputing these inaccurate accounts and also the dispute letters. I'll see you guys there.